3. Now, the serpent was shrewder than any of the wild animals that the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, "Is it really true that God said you must not eat from any tree of the orchard?" The woman said to the serpent, "We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the orchard, but concerning the fruit of the tree that is in the middle of the orchard, God said you must not eat from it, and you must not touch it, or else you will die." The serpent said to the woman, "Surely you will not die, for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be open, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." When the woman saw that the tree produced fruit that was good for food, was attractive to the eye, and was desirable for making one wise, she took some of the fruit and ate it. She also gave some of it to her husband, who was with her, and he ate it. Then the eyes of both of them opened, and they knew they were naked. So they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. Then the man and his wife heard the sound of the Lord God moving about in the orchard at the breezy time of the day, and they hid from the Lord God among the trees of the orchard. The Lord God called to the man and said to him, "Where are you?" The man replied, "I heard you moving about in the orchard, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." The Lord God said, "Who told you you were naked? Did you eat from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from?" The man said, "The woman you gave me, she gave me some fruit from the tree, and I ate it." The Lord God said to the woman, "What is this you have done?" The woman replied, "The serpent tricked me, and I ate." The Lord God said to the serpent, "Because you have done this, cursed are you above all cattle and all living creatures of the field. On your belly you will crawl, and dust you will eat all the days of your life. And I will put hostility between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. He will strike your head, and you will strike his heel." To the woman he said, "I will greatly increase your labor pains. With pain you will give birth to children. You will want to control your husband, and he will dominate you." But to Adam he said, "Because you obeyed your wife and ate from the tree about which I commanded you, you must not eat from it. The ground is cursed because of you. In painful toil you will eat of it all your days. It will produce thorns and thistles for you. But you will eat the grain of the field by the sweat of your brow. You will eat food until you return to the ground. For out of it you were taken, for you are dust, and to dust you will return." The man named his wife Eve, because she was the mother of all living. The Lord God made garments from skin for Adam and his wife, and clothed them. And the Lord God said, "Now that the man has become like us, knowing good and evil, he must not be allowed to stretch out his hand and take also from the tree of life and eat and live forever." So the Lord God expelled him from the orchard in Eden to cultivate the ground from which he had been taken. When he drove the man out, he placed on the east side of the orchard in Eden angelic sentries who used the flame of a whirling sword to guard the way to the tree of life. All right, so we got a lot going on there. A first-person shrewder, yes. What part, Hezekiah, was making you think that they already had children? Because here, when God talked to Eve, okay. But Adam ate and Eve ate. If they already had a child, the child's not included in the story. The child isn't eating of the fruit. The child would not then have needed to be kicked out of the garden. God could have just punished Adam and Eve and started over with the child if there was a child at that time. So I'm saying you're doing some good work there when you're saying is, I will greatly multiply your pain in childbirth. Unless she's already had a child, how would it be greatly multiplied? I will answer that question. Well, actually, I'll answer it now. There is a thought that what the greatly multiplying your pain in childbirth is going to be is if you look at many animals, they only menstruate or come into heat one season a year. And they only can give birth once a year if they get impregnated during that season of time. That perhaps human biology had a different time sequence for when you could get pregnant, and it was maybe only once a year. And then multiplying your childbirth is that you're going to be able to get pregnant every single month of the year, which increases your chances of pregnancy, which by having more children is going to multiply your pain in childbirth because you will have more children and you'll have them more frequently. Now, that might be, that might not be. It's speculation. Maybe it isn't one you've heard of, but it's old thought in there that might be what the punishment was, is not an increase of pain, like it was low and now it's a 10. It had just got harder, but maybe it was a frequency possibility. Okay, going back to the beginning of chapter 3. Now, the serpent was shrewder. Many theologians identify or associate the serpent with Satan. In this view, Satan comes in the disguise of a serpent or speaks through a serpent. This explains the serpent's capacity to speak. While later passages in the Bible indicate that there was a satanic presence behind the serpent, the immediate context first pictures the serpent as one of the animals of the field created by God. An ancient Jewish interpretation explains the reference to the serpent in a literal manner, attributing the capacity to speak to all the animals in the orchard. On that day, the day that man and woman were expelled from the orchard, the mouth of all beasts and cattle and birds and whatever walked or moved was stopped from speaking because all of them used to speak to one another and one speech and one language. So that's a speculation on how you have a talking animal. I want to go look at what I believe, maybe I'm wrong here. Let me go look at the Hebrew a minute. So we're going over the Blue Letter Bible and Genesis 3. Nahas, now the serpent. Nahas.
Strong's H, 5175. Nachash. Nachash.
Okay, serpent, snake, serpent, image. I thought this also had the connotation of a shiny one. Maybe I'm mixing that up. Let me just go here and look a second. Hebrew word, shiny one. Oh, that's the wrong thing. Zack attack! Tip of the cap, friend. Tip of the cap. Okay. Hillel. Okay. Or Zoar are usually to go. Okay, so I'm connecting a different word. Okay. Maybe it's shrewder that means. Is that the one? There is a wordplay in Hebrew between the words naked and shrewd. So rumim and a room. A rumim and a room. So there's a play here between the man and the woman were naked, and the serpent is shrewd. So a shrewd person is going to expose the nakedness of someone, or can see to the nakedness, to see the exposure in your weakness, to be able to take advantage of you. So there's a tie between nakedness and shrewdness. The point seems to be that the integrity of the man and woman in the focus of the serpent's craftiness. At the beginning, they are naked and he is shrewd. Afterwards, they are covered and he is cursed. The Hebrew arum basically means clever. The idea then polarizes into the nuance of cunning, the negative sense, and prudent in the positive sense. So you're either you have a good sense about you, you're using it for good or for ill. The same polarization of meaning can be derived of related words derived from the sense of the root. The negative nuance obviously applied in Genesis 3. Okay, so that's just going on about the nuance between those two things. So we do have to answer the question, is the serpent an animal or is the serpent a spiritual being? It's presented as an animal because it says of any of the wild animals. So it presents himself as an animal. So you have to wrestle with those things. But is it not intended to be a serpent? Because later on, when we have a seraphim and a cherubim, those are throne guardians. So a serpent is a throne guardian. Is this first telling us it looks like a serpent, but we are supposed to know at the end of the story it really wasn't a serpent. It was a throne guardian that actually was there to guard the tree so that Adam and Eve would not eat from the tree. But instead of guarding the tree, which was the role of the serpent to do, the serpent then instead invites them to disobey. Is that what's going on here? You can follow this logic, and it makes some sense from the standpoint of if this is the fall of humanity and it was a throne guardian who is a serpent, who is supposed to protect from this, he is inviting them to disobey, and that act of disobedience is the very first sin. It's not that Satan fell earlier before creation, and then God created a world in which Satan influenced. It's a simultaneous, God creates all things, and the fall of the spiritual realm and the fall of the human realm happen simultaneously at the garden, but we're not getting all of that aspect of it here entirely, because the point of this is not about the spiritual realm. The point of Genesis is about the physical realm. So we don't need all of it, but we can see a reflection here, possibly. Okay, so the serpent is there, knowing good and evil. Oh, okay, that's what I want to do. Your eyes will be open and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Okay, I want to look at this a second because I kind of think it is a little bit different than traditional. Let's go see what that is. That's verse 4. Yeah, this does a good job, I think, with the translation here. Okay. As gods here, and it's masculine plural. Now, masculine plural for God can simply mean that it is God himself, and it is that reference there. But there's another thought here, that the serpent is saying that, hey, you know there's a spiritual realm with beings who are higher than you. God doesn't want you to be like the spiritual realm creatures that know more than you know. So eating from it will make you like the spiritual realm, the gods, not like God the creator, but equivalent to those people who have been created different than you that are spiritual beings. You'll be like them in your knowledge, that if you eat from it. So there's this other thought of, maybe it's plural, you'll be like the gods. Now, We don't traditionally translate it that way because we, since the Enlightenment, have downplayed the spiritual realm, and the existence of any gods aren't real gods, so we just eliminate them, and then we make everything must be about God himself because he's the only true God and real God. But if this is about being equivalent with the spiritual realm, that has some appeal, I think, more than be like God. I don't know what it is to be like God. I don't know if I want to be like God, but I can see the other spiritual beings around, and I know they're a little bit different, and they got some cool things. Maybe I would enjoy or like that. So it doesn't matter what it is. There are three things that it says was true. That the produced fruit that was good for food, it is good for food. It will benefit on the physical sense. It is attractive to the eye, and it was desirable for making one wise. So there's the word desire, which will get repeated elsewhere. The thing that's desirable. If sin is always desirable for something, or we wouldn't fall into sin. So it's good, and we have three reasons. It's good for food. It's good to look at, and it will make you wise. You will change your nature by partaking in this. And it does say, by the way, her husband who was with her. Not, she didn't call her husband and he came. Her husband was with her. And the eyes of them were both open, and they knew they were naked. And so nakedness is a reference for shame. They have shame because they have done wrong. So they have shame. So they realize their shame. They try to cover and hide their shame. So whether this is figurative or literal doesn't matter. And yes, I do think it's literal that they try to cover themselves with fig leaves because they realize they're naked. They feel ashamed, which is weird. If they're the only two people, why would you feel ashamed of each other if you've always saw each other naked previously? But yeah, I can see some reasons why they do that. Yeah, it's unclear. Something makes us have headaches. Okay. Jack, just here to say good morning, have things to do. Okay, Zach, thank you. Artsy, this is also a precursor to many other Old Testament stories. See and take are verbs that make many figures do before sinning. Yes. They see that it's pleasing. There are more reasons why they are going to take it, and then they go and they take it. Yes, there is it is desirable for, there is something to be gained from it, and then you pursue it. There was the breezy time. This is such a weird translation. It's often translated as cool of the day. Breezy time is better because Ruach can mean wind. Ruach means spirit, breath, or wind. Okay? So it is the wind of the day. That's where you get cool, when the wind is blowing, and you're going to have a cool time of the day because the breeze. You can also have a hot breeze. So it could be a hot time of the day versus a cool time of the day, but it is potentially the windy time of the day. So God comes in. And if we go back to Genesis 1, the Spirit hovers over the face of the deep. It is the Spirit, the Ruach, the wind, the breath, or the Spirit. The wind, the breath, or the Spirit hovers over the deep. Now, the wind, the breath, or the Spirit is present in the garden, but it's called the Ruach time of the day. It's the Ruach of the day. When the Spirit is present, time of the day. And then what's interesting, too, is they hear God walking. Is that what it's? Let me see. Heard God moving about. Sorry, they heard him moving about. Heard your sound. If one sees a storm theophany here, the word time in verse 8, then one could translate it, your powerful voice. Okay. Yeah, heard the sound of God moving. So you heard the sound. You hear God moving. If it's a wind, you can hear God's presence by the wind coming and blowing. So there's ways to address that. If we go to the cursing, again, notice what is here and what is not here. The serpent is cursed above all the cattle of the field. the living creatures on your belly you will crawl, and dust you will eat all the days of your life. If you're talking to a literal figurative snake, now we have to say, did the snake not have feet before, and now the serpent has feet that are removed from him, or legs, I should say, and he's got to crawl on his belly? Is that a new thing? Or can we go from the standpoint of, if this was a spiritual being who was a throne guardian, and now to crawl on his belly is not a literal reference, but a reference to, you're going to dwell on the earth now. You will not get to return to the heavenly abode. And eating dust all of your days is, you're going to dwell on this planet. You could have that motif if you're going with it. It's a spiritual being there. The casting down from the heavenly realm to the dust of the ground where the humans are. You engaged with them in a way that was not the way you were supposed to. Your punishment is dwelling among them. You could go in that direction. Not saying you have to. Then we have hostility being put between the woman and the offspring of the woman and the serpent. So this is where it's like, it's really hard to think of the serpent as only a crafty, actual animal. It's hard to see it that way. If all this is that the kids and women are going to be afraid of snakes. Like, if that's all it is, that's weird. I mean, that's weird. It's got to be more than that. And it is your seed, your offspring, and her offspring. The offspring don't have to be biological here. The offspring can be those who, as Jesus talks about, you are the sons of your father, the devil. Well, the devil didn't impregnate their mothers. That's not what he's saying. He's saying you are the sons of, because you follow the practices of. So to follow the practices of someone makes you the heir of their practices and the things that they do. So you're the people who practice shrewdness to deceive people, follow after your ways, are the ones who are going to strike at the woman's seed, and he's going to crush your head. Which is also why we get further on down, going through Genesis 6 particularly, and we see perhaps the corruption of this already taking place. We see in Genesis with Cain and Abel, or even the birth of Cain and Abel, Eve's claiming of the seed promise here. I'll try to point that out when we get to that. Let's see if there's anything else. Okay, so the curse of the creature is crawling on belly all of the days, and hostility between her and the woman. So you're not going to easily be able to tempt her. She is going to be on her alert against you and your offspring. Going to be angry, trying to go against you. You're going against her. The increasing in childbirth, we already talked about this. Additionally, you will want to control your husband, and he will dominate you. This is, I think, natural consequence, because you already have the natural consequence of this. Adam blames Eve. Eve blames the servant. You've got a getting out of, whatever it is. And toward your husband, toward your husband will be your desire. The normal sense does not have a verb. A future verb must be supplied. So your desire will be for your husband. Many interpreters conclude that this refers to sexual desire here because the subject of the passage is relations with the wife and husband, and because the word is used in romantic sense in Psalms. However, the interpretation makes little sense in Genesis 3:16. First, it does not fit well with the assertion, he will dominate you. Second, implies that sexual desire was not part of the original creation. Yeah. Okay, enough on that. What do we have? The dominate. This passage is a judgment oracle. It announces the conflict between man and woman will become the norm in human society. It does not depict the New Testament ideal where the husband sacrificially loves his wife as Christ loved the church. Okay. Marshal means to rule over, but in a way that emphasizes power, control, domination, or mastery. This also is part of the baser human nature. but he will want to dominate you. In this case, the Lord simply announces the struggle without indicating who will emerge victorious. Okay, so you're going to have a desire over your husband, and your husband is going to dominate you. The relationship has been broken, and this is going to be the consequence of that broken relationship. Rather than being an Ezer Kenegdo, rather than having a need for an Ezer Kenegdo, you're going to have strife. That's the clear thing here. And this is part of the curse, the whole curse. It's not a curse. I think it's consequences, but of what they did. Then Adam's, but to Adam he said, because of your wife ate of the tree, the ground is cursed because of you. So childbirth is labor is increased, and the ground is cursed. So people are not cursed. The world, the environment is under the curse because of this. Let's see, was there anything? Oh, the very first thing to show and demonstrate that he wants to dominate you, he names you. The very thing is fulfilled in Adam naming Eve. Immediately after this is pronounced, he goes and he does exactly what God warned her that she would do. He names her because naming has power and control over. Yeah, Hezekiah, you did not know that it was the earth that was cursed? Yes.